Could beauty be a curse? In previous episodes, we've seen more than a few tragic cases where the victims were young, beautiful, and full of dreams. It's as if their beauty didn't just turn heads, it also invited disaster. Today we dive into another haunting tale, the tragedy of a popular internet model from Taiwan, ChenKexiang. She was born in Dongshan Township, Yilan County, a peaceful countryside where people believe twins are bound by a sacred connection, and she had a twin sister, ChenKexiang. The two were nearly identical, not only in looks, but in spirit. If one sentence could capture their essence, it would be a beauty that makes people turn their heads. ChenKexiang, Kexiang's older twin, had already caught media attention several times and was hailed as Taiwan's most beautiful jewelry saleswoman. As for Kexiang, she took a different path, working as a freelance internet model in hopes of building her own career, independent of anyone else. In 2017, chasing a dream of a better life, the sisters left Yilan for Taipei. They rented a modest home in New Taipei, living simply but full of hope. Every photo shoot, every session, brought Kexiang one step closer to her dream. That morning, May 1st, was like any other. Kexiang got dressed carefully, put on light makeup, and left for work. She often had outdoor shoots, so her comings and goings at odd hours weren't unusual. As she left, her sister simply said the usual words, "Do your best." But that ordinary morning would be the last time Keiji saw her sister. There's a certain unexplainable intuition that twins often share, an invisible thread that connects them, allowing them to sense each other even across great distances. That night, that thread began to tremble with unease. By midnight, Kexiang still hadn't returned. Her phone rang, but no one picked up. At first, Keiji thought she might be working late or out with friends, but as repeated calls went unanswered, her heart slowly began to sink. Just before dawn, a message finally arrived, from Kexiang's number. It simply said, "I'm okay." At first glance, nothing seemed unusual, but to ChenKexiang, that short sentence felt more like a warning, not because of what it said, but because of how it was written. The message wasn't in standard Chinese characters, but in Zhuyin, a phonetic system for Mandarin Chinese once commonly used in Taiwan, similar to how people used stylized text or coded writing in early 2000s online messaging. But here's the thing, ChenKexiang hated that style of writing. Tacky, that's the word she used to describe Zhuyin. In all their years living together, Keiji had never seen her sister use it. It just wasn't her style. Keiji immediately replied, "Where are you?" But the responses that followed were vague, evasive, no location, no familiar voice, and the most terrifying part, Keiji felt something was off. That twin intuition kicked in, hard. Without a second thought, Keiji and her boyfriend rushed to the nearest police station in Bangqiao. Fear was growing by the second. Fear that the person she'd just been texting might not be her sister at all. As soon as the report was filed, police immediately tracked Kexiang's phone. The result stunned everyone. The device wasn't in Taipei, nor in New Taipei, where she lived, but had pinged in Taichung, a city over 60 miles to the south. This was no longer just a typical missing person case. With her heart racing, ChenKexiang and her boyfriend jumped in the car and sped toward Taichung, anxiety mounting with every mile. While driving, Keiji frantically made call after call to friends, acquaintances, anyone who might have a clue about her sister's whereabouts. Finally, a small glimmer of hope came from a friend in the photography circle. Kexiang had gone on an outdoor photo shoot with a photographer introduced to her by Liang Sihui, the same close friend often seen with Kexiang on social media. The name was all too familiar to ChenKexiang. Online, Sihui had appeared countless times beside her sister, inseparable and affectionate. But now, that very closeness sparked an uneasy suspicion. Despite dozens of desperate calls made the night before, Sihui hadn't reached out once. She remained completely silent. The police quickly summoned Liang Sihui and her boyfriend, who was believed to be the photographer accompanying Kexiang that day. In the interrogation room, Sihui dodged and denied everything. She insisted she hadn't seen Kexiang, didn't know where she was, and had no idea what was going on. Then, out of nowhere, she said, "Maybe ChenKexiang is with some clothing manufacturer." Yet she couldn't name the person, give a location, or explain what kind of work they did. Trying to calm KG's growing panic, Sihui handed over a few phone numbers to call. But every single one was either disconnected or went unanswered. When friends and family began pressing her for answers, Sihui grew visibly annoyed. Around 8 a.m., she suddenly posted on social media, "The unluckiest thing in my life is being falsely accused of kidnapping Kexiang." It seemed like just a simple sentence, but it made ChenKexiang's heart drop. She suddenly remembered something important. In many of their past conversations, Sihui had a habit of texting using Zhuyin, the exact same writing system used in the strange message sent from Kexiang's phone the night before. Even more troubling, whenever Sihui publicly mentioned the name Kexiang, she consistently misspelled it, substituting the water radical for the grass radical in the character. It was a small but telling mistake, one that someone truly close to her sister would never make. That night, ChenKexiang couldn't sleep. She waited. She called. She hoped. But when the phone finally rang at 8:10 a.m. the next morning, the voice on the other end wasn't Kexiang's. It was a man she didn't recognize. He identified himself as a housekeeper at the Evergreen Laurel Hotel, a 5-star hotel in Taichung, and said he had just found the phone in a guest room. He was about to call the police when the phone started ringing. 2 days without sleep, food, or even a shower, ChenKexiang was physically and emotionally drained. But that flicker of hope pushed her to action. She rushed to the hotel, alerted the Taichung police, and begged to be led into the room to look for her sister. But her request was denied. "To protect the privacy of our guests," the hotel manager said. She knocked on the door, but it stayed tightly shut, and behind it lay a mystery that would soon send shockwaves across all of Taiwan. After receiving the report from ChenKexiang, Taichung police quickly worked with the hotel management to check the guest registry from the past 2 days, and there, a name sent chills down everyone's spine. Liang Sihui, the very woman who had insisted she knew nothing and had no connection, was listed as a registered guest, along with her boyfriend Cheng Yu. The couple had rented room 1122, the exact room where Kexiang's phone had been found by hotel staff. A chilling question surfaced. If she wasn't involved, then why was she staying in the very hotel where the victim's phone had turned up? The police immediately conducted a search of room 1122. In a tense, suffocating silence, they turned over every drawer, every corner. Finally, in the bathroom trash can, they discovered undeniable evidence: a transportation card, a credit card, a national ID, a set of keys, and other personal belongings of Kexiang. But that wasn't all. Security footage revealed suspicious behavior. At 2:39 a.m. on May 2nd, Cheng Yu, Sihui's boyfriend, was caught leaving the room alone and entering a storage room in the basement. He gave no legitimate reason, no coherent explanation for this action. The police began digging into both of their backgrounds. Sihui had no criminal record. She came from a well-off family and was listed as a student at a technical university, or at least on paper. In reality, she had been expelled for failing to enroll on time. Cheng Yu, however, whose real name was Chen Wu, was well known to local authorities. He had previously been a suspect in a rape case in Taipei and was currently wanted. His criminal history included multiple fraud charges and assault offenses, a career offender who had slipped through legal cracks time and again. Still, according to records, Chen Wu had never committed murder. Clinging to the faint hope that ChenKexiang might still be alive, police proceeded to arrest both suspects for further investigation. In the initial interrogation, Chen Wu was eerily calm and indifferent. He claimed that after the photo shoot, Kexiang got into an argument with her boyfriend, became upset, and decided to take a walk alone, then disappeared. He said he had no idea where she went, but when questioned, Kexiang's boyfriend denied everything. There was no argument. In fact, the two had been happily texting that very morning. Sensing deception, investigators pressed Chen Wu harder. Under pressure, he changed his story. After the shoot, Kexiang was supposedly picked up by another photographer, someone with the last name Zhang, and Chen Wu claimed he didn't know what happened after that. This new name, Zhang Rongwu, was quickly added to the investigation list. But once again, Chen Wu's words were just a smokescreen. Police confirmed that Zhang Rongwu hadn't even been in Taiwan. He had left for Hangzhou 2 months earlier. As investigators struggled to untangle the lies, the victim's family continued their desperate search. Her father, his hair turned gray in just a few days, choked back tears as he told reporters, "She was too trusting. She'd only been in Taipei for a few months, and now this happens." Tears streaming down her face, the mother recalled a dream she had one night. In it, Kexiang appeared with a pale face, whispering that she was in a very dark, very frightening place, and wanted to come home. To many it might sound like superstition, but to a mother in despair, it was a sacred sign, a cry for help that crossed the boundary between life and death. The police decided to change their approach. They knew Chen Wu wasn't the silent type. He had a need to boast, a need for recognition. And more importantly, he was psychologically susceptible to manipulation. So, they didn't use force, no threats. Instead, they led him, step by subtle step, into a state of psychological disorientation. First, they offered a plea deal. The investigators pretended to sympathize, suggesting that if he confessed, he might avoid the death penalty and serve only a few decades behind bars. But Chen Wu remained silent, his eyes icy cold. Then they switched tactics. One officer began recounting past cases, stories that involved spiritual consequences, tales of vengeful spirits returning exactly 12 hours after death to drag the guilty to hell. He spoke in a soft, steady voice under the flicker of a lone yellow bulb in the interrogation room. At that moment, another officer sitting across from Chen Wu leaned in and said gently, "If Kexiang is no longer with us, then by now her spirit is probably on its way. After 12 hours, she'll come looking for the one who killed her." Chen Wu didn't speak, but his hands began to tremble slightly. He looked down, his eyes darting. Another 30 minutes passed in silence. No questions, no movement, just the ticking of a clock, a silence so heavy it crushed the air in the room. Finally, at exactly 12:03 a.m., Chen Wu raised his head. His eyes were bloodshot, and as if something inside him had snapped, he began to speak. In a raspy voice, he said, "I'll talk, but please give me a cigarette." He confessed that he and Sihui had lured Kexiang out under the pretense of an outdoor photo shoot, but it was all a trap. After committing the crime, the two fled the scene and went to Taichung, where they checked into a hotel. The texts, the personal items, all of it had been planted to mislead investigators. The most chilling part? As Chen Wu recounted the events, he didn't shed a single tear. With the flat tone of someone reading a script, he led police to the scene of the crime. An abandoned building in the heart of Taipei, a place most people would walk past without a second glance. Cold, dark, and forgotten, it was once a bustling shopping mall. Now, only broken walls and silence remained. And in the basement of that building, they found Kexiang. The basement of the Wangxiang building, once a thriving commercial hub, was now a desolate shell, covered in cobwebs and reeking of mold. Behind a large wooden board, lying on a dusty patch of floor in complete darkness, was the body of ChenKexiang. She lay motionless, her face bluish, eyes wide open in terror, as if she still couldn't believe what had happened. Her neck was tightly wrapped with a handbag strap. Her clothes were disheveled, her feet bare, and her body showed signs of a brutal struggle and being dragged. Kexiang's death wasn't just the end of a life. It was the ultimate betrayal. A raw, lonely death in the darkness, with no one by her side and no cry for help heard. At the police station, Chen Wu continued his confession. He admitted that he and Sihui had planned the entire setup, luring Kexiang to the photo shoot. What was supposed to be an act of personal revenge were, according to him, quickly spiraled out of control. During the assault, Kexiang suddenly regained consciousness and screamed. Panicked that someone would hear, Sihui struck her on the head with a flashlight. Then, under Sihui's urging, Chen Wu wrapped a handbag strap around Kexiang's neck and strangled her until she stopped breathing. Cold and composed, he recounted every detail as if describing a rehearsal. Chen Wu also revealed that after the murder, it was Sihui who changed Kexiang's pants and helped drag the body to the basement. She was also the one who discarded Kexiang's personal belongings to cover their tracks. One detail left police shaken. The crime scene, a dark, deserted place, wasn't somewhere any average woman would willingly enter alone with a strange man. But if she had been accompanied by another woman, it would have seemed safe. That's why Kexiang let her guard down. Chen Wu's testimony pierced the hearts of the victim's family and enraged the public. Still, the police knew every word needed to be verified. Chen Wu, after all, had a record of deceit and manipulation. But one thing was undeniable. His detailed knowledge of the scene, including the precise location of the body, was enough to confirm he was the killer. So, what about Liang Sihui? When she was informed of Kexiang's death, Sihui screamed inside the interrogation room, saying she couldn't believe it. How could this happen? She cried, trembled, and kept repeating that she didn't know what was going on. But once confronted with Chen Wu's confession, her demeanor shifted completely. She went silent. No panic, no dramatic denial. Just silence, followed by a chilling question to the investigator. Didn't you figure it out already? Why do you keep asking me? That response, more damning than any denial, sent chills through everyone in the room. People had believed Sihui was one of Kexiang's closest friends. The two had frequently appeared together on social media, smiling, inseparable like sisters. But as the truth slowly unraveled, the image of the kind best friend crumbled, revealing someone entirely different. Sihui was born in the Nangang district of Taipei, the eldest daughter in what appeared to be a stable family. Her father, originally from Guangdong, China, was a retired police officer. After divorcing his first wife, he remarried Sihui's mother and moved the entire family to Taiwan. She had a younger sister, and the family lived comfortably off the father's pension and a bakery managed by her mother. With her good looks, the two sisters were often the subject of neighborhood gossip. But beneath the sweet appearance was a life filled with cracks. Sihui disliked studying. Although she enrolled at Lingdong University of Science and Technology, she was expelled for failing to complete her registration. Neighbors recalled frequent tension between Sihui and her mother. Yelling matches from their small home were not uncommon. Sihui wasn't entirely unknown online. She had worked in the hotel service industry and briefly gained attention in 2015 when she dated a popular blogger known as Bullock Saint. That relationship ended messily, with both parties publicly throwing shade at each other online. According to those familiar with the scene, it was during these exchanges that the seeds of resentment between Sihui and Kexiang were first planted. Even so, Liang Sihui's former manager publicly denied any rift between the two women, stating, "There was no bad blood between them. Everything else is just speculation." 2 years later, Sihui began dating a new man, a self-proclaimed photographer who claimed he had once made it to the semifinals of the prestigious Pulitzer Prize. He also boasted that he was the son of a senior executive at Cartier, the world-renowned luxury brand. That man was Chen Wu. Once a couple walking hand in hand, they now sat across from each other in an interrogation room, one accusing, the other denying, both shifting the blame for a young woman's life lost. The police knew they needed more than conflicting statements. They needed hard evidence to determine Sihui's true role in the case. That's when an unexpected piece of footage shifted the direction of the entire investigation. Security footage was retrieved from a nearby convenience store close to the crime scene. It showed that at 11:46 a.m. on May 1st, a woman wearing a gray jacket and a cap walked into the store. Chen Wu confirmed. That was Kexiang. 2 minutes later, another woman, dressed in black, entered the store along with Chen Wu. At 12:26 p.m., both exited the store and headed in the direction of the Wangxiang building. Chen Wu claimed that the woman walking with him was Si Hui, while Kexiang, he insisted, entered the building through the back. To verify this claim, investigators pulled surveillance footage from the rear of the building, and just as Chen Wu said, a woman in black did indeed enter. However, something didn't add up. Upon closer inspection of the footage, investigators made a crucial discovery. The woman in black wasn't Si Hui. She was an actress who lived in the Wangxiang building named Huang Jenny. Because it was winter, everyone was bundled up, coats, hats, face masks, and their body shapes were similar, leading to the initial mistake. This error had wrongly placed Si Hui under suspicion for weeks. But the truth didn't stop there. Police then reviewed the outfit Kexiang was wearing when she left home that morning. Comparing it to the video footage, they confirmed the woman in black walking into the building with Chen Wu was Kexiang, no one else, which meant Si Hui had never even been at the scene. But then, why did her phone show up near the location? In an effort to clear her daughter's name from public outrage, Si Hui's mother quietly conducted her own investigation. She eventually found nearby security footage showing that Si Hui had stayed at home until 6:20 p.m. that evening, hours after the crime had occurred. That directly contradicted the location data tied to her phone. That's when police discovered a key detail. Si Hui's phone had gone missing on the day of her father's funeral. But was it really lost? Or was it stolen? The truth was chilling. Chen Wu had secretly taken Si Hui's phone and carried it with him to the crime scene, deliberately planting digital traces to make it appear as though she had been there. A calculated setup. A scheme orchestrated with technology, deceit, and icy precision. When police searched Liang Si Hui's residence, they found a smartwatch, a phone, and several personal items belonging to Kexiang. Si Hui explained that Chen Wu had given them to her as gifts, and she had no idea where they really came from. At this point, investigators decided to verify Chen Wu's statement through forensic evidence. They collected footprints from the basement and reviewed the stairwell's security footage. Only one set of footprints was found, Chen Wu's. There was no physical evidence placing Si Hui at the scene. On the stairwell, they discovered 2 face masks and an empty water bottle. Chen Wu claimed, "One mask was mine, one was Si Hui's, and she bought the water." The items were sent for DNA analysis. 3 days later, the results came in. Not a single trace of Si Hui's DNA was found on any of them. The truth was finally revealed. The person who had staged evidence, planted false clues, and tried to shift blame onto his ex-girlfriend was Chen Wu, and Chen Wu alone. It was now clear, all evidence from the scene, footprints, DNA, and physical items pointed to one fact. Chen Wu was the sole perpetrator. Si Hui was never present at the crime scene, so why had he gone to such lengths to drag her into it? The answer lay in a cold, calculated manipulation. Chen Wu was no stranger to law enforcement. He had been arrested multiple times for fraud, sexual assault, and violent offenses. But this time was different. Murder carried an entirely different weight. If convicted as the sole killer, the likelihood of receiving the death penalty was extremely high, so he needed a partner in crime, not just to share the blame, but to spin a narrative of manipulation, to paint himself as someone who was influenced, pushed, not the mastermind. Exploiting his past relationship with Si Hui, Chen Wu mimicked her texting style, even using Julian symbols she often used, to deceive Kexiang's friends and family. He even brought Si Hui's phone to the crime scene, carefully constructing a narrative that both of them had plotted and committed the murder together. And he, just a pawn in the hands of a wicked woman. But the act crumbled under the sharp scrutiny of the investigators. On June 20th, 2017, the Shaolin District Prosecutor's Office formally charged Chen Wu with rape, murder, and abuse of a corpse. Due to his repeat offenses, lack of remorse, and brutal methods, prosecutors sought the death penalty to remove him from society permanently. Si Hui, meanwhile, was not prosecuted. There was insufficient evidence to link her to the crime. Soon after, Si Hui's lawyer filed a lawsuit for wrongful arrest and investigation. Authorities paid her 20,000 new Taiwan dollars in compensation. The lawyer also stated that if she chose to sue the individuals who had defamed her online, she could potentially receive up to 600 million new Taiwan dollars in damages. But the case wasn't over yet. On May 10, 2018, the Shilin District Court delivered its final verdict. Chen Wu was sentenced to life in prison. The court's reasoning ignited public outrage. They stated that Chen Wu's original intent was to commit sexual assault, and that the murder only occurred because the victim woke up and screamed. They concluded that the method of the crime was not excessively brutal and did not cross the threshold of exceptional cruelty. The court also argued that lying and trying to mislead investigators after a crime is something common to human behavior, a justification that sparked national anger across Taiwan. In the courtroom, upon hearing the sentence, Chen Wu smirked. Meanwhile, the victim's family sobbed uncontrollably. Slamming their hands on the table, they pointed at the killer and shouted, "Not even 100 death sentences would be enough for him." The sweet, beautiful girl, ChenKexiang, is gone forever. And the sentence handed down to the man who took her life was seen as too light, too merciful, too irrational. Her family refused to accept it. They filed an appeal, insisting that Liang Sihui could not possibly be entirely innocent, and that the sentence given to Chen Wu was a slap in the face of justice. The controversial verdict sent shockwaves through Taiwanese society. A man with a lengthy criminal history who had lied, manipulated, and attempted to deceive the entire investigative system was given only a life sentence, escaping the death penalty. ChenKexiang's father told the press, "If Chen Wu acted alone, then why did ChenKexiang fall into the trap so easily? Si Hui cannot be blameless." Although there wasn't enough evidence to charge Si Hui with a crime, in the eyes of the victim's family, she remained a suspicious figure. Someone who had played a role, however indirect, in the tragedy that claimed ChenKexiang's life. In June 2020, Chen Wu attempted to reduce his sentence by requesting a psychological evaluation, hoping to prove diminished responsibility at the time of the crime. However, both of the following appeals were denied, and the life sentence was upheld. The court also stripped him of citizenship rights for life. On October 15th, the Supreme Court issued its final ruling. The appeal was dismissed, officially closing the legal chapter of the case. But the pain and outrage remained unresolved. After the charges against her were dropped, Si Hui disappeared from social media for a time. Yet only a few months later, she reappeared, under a new name, with a new account, and resumed live streaming as if nothing had ever happened. No one knew for certain what name she now used, but internet users quickly recognized her face. Some criticized her. Others attacked her account. But despite the backlash, Si Hui live-streamed regularly and even created a new fan group, rebranding herself as the Misunderstood Girl. In one live stream, she wept and wiped away tears, saying, "I really loved ChenKexiang, I miss her. I'm heartbroken too." Those words ignited a firestorm online. But the person most devastated was ChenKexiang, ChenKexiang's twin sister. Right after the live stream, KG posted a powerful message on social media. "Stop pretending. If you have even a shred of conscience left, don't you ever speak my sister's name again." The post went viral, becoming one of the most widely shared statements related to the case. Not because it was angry, but because the pain was too real. Liang Sihui, once declared not guilty, was now free, possibly even profiting from the attention the case had brought. Meanwhile, the victim's family, those who lost their daughter, their future, their peace, had to watch as the killer smirked in court, and the suspected accomplice monetized tears on camera. That is the price of freedom. A freedom not earned through innocence, but granted through the shortcomings of the legal system. The ChenKexiang case may have disappeared from headlines, but it did not disappear from the hearts of the people of Taiwan. The fact remains, a young woman was brutally raped and murdered, while the man responsible escaped a death sentence, and the alleged accomplice was free to change her name, livestream, and rebuild her life. That shook the public's faith in the justice system to its core. and it left people asking a far bigger question. What allowed someone like Chen Wu to keep committing crimes for so many years, without anyone stopping him? According to data from Taiwan's Ministry of Justice, as of 2017, the year of the ChenKexiang case, there were approximately 500 sex offenders actively wanted across the country. Many of them had prior convictions, but after serving their time, they easily reintegrated into society and reoffended. Among them was Chen Wu, accused of rape, fraud, and assault. He had been arrested, stood trial, yet never received a sentence severe enough to stop him from repeating his crimes. He continued posing as a photographer to lure young women, still wrapped himself in the false image of being from a wealthy family, and freely used social media as a tool to hunt for victims. The system was too lax. The laws weren't strict enough. The mechanisms to monitor repeat offenders were practically ineffective. In fact, during the same month the crime took place, on International Women's Day, March 8th, several human rights organizations in Taiwan raised their voices. They called on the government to enforce harsher penalties for sexual crimes, establish special surveillance mechanisms for high-risk offenders, expand police and prosecutors' authority to investigate individuals showing signs of potential recidivism. Petitions flooded the government. Public outrage surged across all platforms, from mainstream media to social networks. Facing increasing pressure, Taiwan's Ministry of Justice was forced to respond. The result was one of the most significant legal reforms of the decade. By the end of 2017, Taiwan's criminal code was officially amended. The minimum sentence for organized or severe sexual assault was substantially raised. Rape resulting in death was formally added to the list of crimes eligible for a mandatory death sentence. The monitoring system for repeat sex offenders was overhauled, incorporating electronic surveillance and mandatory psychological evaluations. Tragically, ChenKexiang's case became the catalyst that jolted a complacent legal system into action. But no matter how many laws are rewritten, no matter how many sentences are handed down, a lost life can never be recovered. So if you're a young woman who has ever been threatened, belittled, or abused, physically or verbally, you are not alone. If you've ever witnessed injustice but hesitated to speak out, remember, silence is the soil where violence grows. Share this story, not for views, but as a reminder to yourself and to those around you. Justice is not given, it is fought for.